RevOpsAF, the only podcast for people who are RevOpsAF and want to learn all about things that are RevOps AF.
Our goal is to give the revenue operations community, that includes marketing, sales, and CS, for any of you not paying attention, the skills needed to accelerate their careers. I'm one of your co-hosts, Kamala Thompson, and today we're doing something unusual. I am interviewing RevOps Co-op community co-founder and CEO, Matt Volm. Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here.
Yeah, thanks, Kamala. Well, I guess originally we started the community as part of a broader, I'll say, go-to-market initiative with a software startup that we were building, a RevOps software product. And that was about 4 years ago, and that product was called Funnel IQ. And in typical startup fashion, we iterated a bunch on the software product, never found product market fit, so we decided to, I'll say, sunset or shut down the software product side of what we were working on and really just focus on the community that we had started, and that's really been our focus ever since. So that's a short version, I guess, of where we started and how we got to where we are today.
Well, I'm going to pull the longer version out of you because I was there in the beginning, almost the beginning. And I got to see behind the scenes, the strategy and thoughtfulness you put into the community. Tell us a little bit about your experience in operations, maybe, and then we can build on that.
Yeah. So before we started Funnel IQ and RevOps Co-op, I was working as the VP of Business Operations at an early stage software company that was building OKR software. And I was one of the first 10 employees there. As part of my job in business operations, I was responsible for all of revenue operations as well. And it was my first experience with RevOps. I didn't really know what it was. No one else really knew what it was, but it was a new thing and it was my responsibility. And so I was there to kind of figure it out. And I really figured it out as I went along, just learned as I went on the job. And because again, no one at the company knew what they were doing with RevOps, and neither did I. So there we were. We just kind of set out to figure it out ourselves. And it was really that experience that kind of shaped, I'll say, my initial idea on building a software product for people in RevOps to help them do their jobs better. But then also the community was meant to just be an extension, I'll say, of the kind of what we ultimately wanted to do, which was just help RevOps folks succeed and excel in their career, because there was no degree in revenue operations, and it was this new function that everyone was getting into, but no one really knew what they were doing, and everyone was learning on the job. So just like me, how I went through it learning on the job and didn't really have any resources available, I wanted to change that for folks who were getting into RevOps as a career. And that was really why we started the community with originally just our Slack group and our newsletter, was to deliver some value to folks in RevOps to help them do their jobs better and support them in their careers.
And funny story about how we met. When you were at that company as the first 10, they were going to hire after they'd grown quite a bit, they were going to hire an additional operations person. And I interviewed for the job and really wanted to work with you. Unfortunately, that's not how it panned out, but
that's right.
It wasn't my fault.
Yeah, it wasn't your fault. Also, so yes, what Kamala is alluding to is the fact that I interviewed her for a RevOps role at this company, and I did not hire her for that RevOps role, but she did not hold it against me. I will say I did want to hire her, but we had some other people on the team who wanted to go a different direction. But it turns out that all worked out for the best, because then you obviously went out and did continue to do your freelance thing. And that was how we originally started to work together at RevOps Co-op. So if I would have never decided not to hire you, then we probably wouldn't be sitting here today doing this podcast. So I guess that's just your way of saying thank you. And I guess because of that, I'll say you're welcome as well.
No, yeah, it ended up being for the best. So despite my snarky question, it was a weird time, I think, for both of us. So the pandemic had just begun, I think, and
Just begun.
everything
Yeah.
was locked down. I had just switched careers from 15 years in revenue operations to writer
Yep. Yep.
and got really nervous when people initially shrunk back their marketing budgets and started interviewing for RevOps roles again. And I was going to be really selective about who I worked for because I love revenue operations, but there are aspects that can burn you out really quickly.
Yeah.
Which Matt would love to hear your experience after being you've had a career in finance, you dabbled in sales a little bit, and you spent time in revenue operations. I think you touched on this a little bit with the lack of resources, but what was your experience, the dynamics? How did you feel in that position as opposed to the others?
Yeah. Well, it was hard because I remember one of the most challenging things was having all these other VPs and SVPs in various departments, sales, marketing, and customer success, that obviously all wanted things to get done. And, they all had their scope, right? Their function that they were responsible for. And my role in revenue operations was to make sure that we were prioritizing the right things on any given quarter to that aligned best with what the company wanted to accomplish. And sometimes that meant, for example, new business or new logos was, maybe the like the thing that was at the top of the list, right? So naturally, things like what the sales team maybe needed or wanted was prioritized. Other times, the focus was pipeline and pipeline generation, and maybe then it was more what the marketing team needed. And other times it might have been, hey, we have a churn problem, or we want to improve our first impression that we deliver to customers on the implementation side, or we want to drive more expansion revenue. And so then it was supporting the CS team. And so just getting, call it alignment, but more agreement on from all those people on like, hey, these are the things that are important to the business, and that's why we're prioritizing things that directly impact your team. We had all these weekly meetings and all these other things going on, but it was still like, people wanted their stuff done regardless of what was, top of the list for the company on that particular quarter. And people would still like call, like, go around you to like go, like, try to go like straight to the CEO and like complain, about like, hey, Matt and like the RevOps team or the BizOps team, like they're not delivering value to me, right? Like, let me go out and hire my own ops, team or person, right? So that they can do the things for me. So yeah, the alignment piece was really, really hard.
Yeah, and same. I think one of the most frustrating aspects of being in revenue operations, and you said this really well, and I'm going to just echo it, is the lack of positional power and authority when trying to get alignment on an initiative. So you may know exactly what the CEO wants to focus on. That's not going to stop marketing and sales from being really upset if that takes attention away from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just
And it's hard to do. I know, one of the things that, I've tried to do is, say just like ask questions back to kind of include all these folks in call it the decision-making process, right? And so, for us, I was at an OKR software company. So naturally we had OKRs, we had goals, objectives that we were marching to every quarter. And so, when it came down to like, hey, is project XYZ going to get done for, say, like the sales team? Like, rather than just say like, well, no, because we're doing these other things, to say, well, right now we've got it prioritized here because for this quarter, company objective ABC is the most important. If they put up, a stink or anything on that, right, and then say like, well, what else? Like, okay, well, these are the things that are above it because of what's important to us this quarter. How would you adjust those things? How would you change those things? How would you reprioritize those things? Then even say like, oh, it sounds like you think we maybe should reprioritize these things differently. Let's go have a conversation with the CEO or with someone else, right? Invite all those things. Because yeah, otherwise, people are going to feel excluded or like they're not getting support. I say all that stuff too, but like very hard to do all of
right.
those things.
especially early in your career. Like I remember, I'm thinking back to when I first started, it's easy to be pulled into the wrong priorities if someone's really forceful and authoritative and
100%.
you're used to kowtowing to authority. And then as you get older and more scuffed up, you start to get braver about pushing back and sticking up for
Yeah.
what you know is right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard. Let's transition over to talking about RevOps AF and this arm of the RevOps Co-op community. So, Tommy, where did you get the AF idea and what does it stand for? Because that's a question both of us always get asked.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I mentioned a little bit about RevOps Co-op, the community, and how we originally started that as part of the go-to-market efforts that we had for Funnel IQ, a RevOps software product that we were building. And then we sunsetted the Funnel IQ product and just focused on RevOps Co-op, the community. And the community itself started just as a Slack group and a newsletter. And we just listened to our members on what they wanted, what they needed, and we kind of added on more programs from there. So Slack group and newsletter is what started it all. From there, we added courses, we added like a paid version of our membership, we added like some versions of in-person events, and then we got to this point last year where, and it was like Q3, Q4 of 2023, and I'd been thinking about whether we should put together a multi-day RevOps conference for a while, because I had seen a bunch of other, call it conferences out there that were more product specific, right? Like a Dreamforce or an Inbound centered around one particular solution. But there was nothing out there that was, focused on revenue operations. And I thought, hey, if anyone's going to do this RevOps conference, it should be us. It should be RevOps Co-op, the leading community in the space. But, again, had never run a conference before, wasn't really sure how to do it, if we should do it, if we did it, what would we call it? And so with RevOpsAF, I was at another conference in Nashville, and the sessions and everything had just wrapped up, and I was walking back to my hotel from the conference, and I came across this mural on this wall in Nashville, and Nashville is the bachelorette party capital of the world, apparently, which I didn't know, but it makes sense. There's tons of bachelorette parties going on there all the time. This mural was dedicated to the bachelorette party capital of the world, and so it had all these little hearts on it, and some of the hearts said like single AF and like engaged AF, and I was like, oh, RevOps AF. I was like, that would be like a cool name for a RevOps conference, because I was thinking about revenue operations and the folks that work in revenue operations, and you're definitely a certain personality type, right? And I think RevOps is more than just a job title, but it is this movement. It's kind of a part of who you are. Like you're either RevOps or you're not, right? And if you're RevOps, you're typically RevOps AF. And so the AF does stand for what you think it stands for, RevOps as fuck. That is the point of it, is that it embodies at least like your personality type, which is, right, like you see a problem that you've never faced before, and while a normal person may like run away or shy away from stuff like that, your initial reaction is to dive headfirst in, right, and just like solve it, figure it out. And you like having a broad array of responsibilities, and know that any given day when you show up to your office or your desk, that some totally like random problem that you've never encountered before in your career, like you could be faced with, and the prospect of that excites you, or like you enjoy that rather than shying away from it, right? Where most people would maybe want to stay in their lane and be very happy and comfortable, just like staying in their lane and knowing what to expect and doing their job. Like when you're in RevOps, that is not what your day or your week looks like. And so with the conference, I thought RevOpsAF would be a good name for all that reasons, and it would be a great way to obviously provide professional development and learning opportunities for everybody in RevOps, but also to just celebrate everyone who is in RevOps, everyone who is RevOpsAF, and all things and all people, right, that are RevOpsAF. And so that was in, October of 2023 when call it the idea for that first happened. I think after I had that pop into my head, I actually sent you a Slack DM and I was like, hey, what if we did a conference and we called it this? And you were like, I love it. And I was like, all right, that's all that I need. And
Wait. Hold on. So what Matt is skimming over here is he's definitely the visionary leader of the group. He has the visions and we scrambled to figure it out. And I definitely wasn't like, yeah. I was like, why don't we try regional events first, sir?
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that, hey, it all worked out. And that's
Yeah.
what happens more often than not with your ideas.
Yeah.
So
Yep. And and I think that was, like I said, October of 2023, and we did the conference in May of 2024, so about 7 months. And yeah, I mean, we had you had recommended doing some smaller scale events. One of our other consultants on the event side was like, hey, 7 months isn't really, like, you need definitely a lot more time to pull off a multi-day conference. Like, I'd recommend waiting until 2025. But in standard fashion, I was like, no, let's, like, very strong bias for action. So I was like, no, we're going to do this now before someone else does it before us. And yeah, now here we are. We pulled it off. We learned a lot. We had a lot of fun. We had about 275 kind of people registered for that first one. And yeah, going to continue to do it every year.
yeah, and whew, it was a tight timeline. We had a great team. We, like you said, learned a lot. We made mistakes. Fortunately,
Yeah.
people told us over and over they really didn't notice them. So that's a sign of a great conference. Let's talk a little bit about the different elements of the conference. So I usually in my head break it up into you've got the content, you've got the offsite experiences, and then you've got the parties. Let's start with content and then maybe move to the next.
Yeah. With the content piece, we thought, one, it was going to be important to have, say a good variety of content across all the aspects of revenue operations, which again, for us means marketing operations, sales operations, CS operations, and then, call it overall RevOps and revenue operations leadership. Because a lot of people wonder, how do they grow their teams? How should their RevOps team or squad evolve as companies grow and mature? And then naturally, various parts of revenue operations land, in marketing, sales, post sales, and the handoffs that occur between those teams. And then when it came to, call it, sourcing experts or speakers, right, we really relied on the network that we have in the community that we have to turn it into a lot of really strong content. So we had some, great keynote speakers like Manny Medina, CEO at Outreach, Kevin Canerium, the president of strategic go-to-market and former CRO at Clary. Fun fact: both of those people were sourced as speakers by me with some cold outbound. So cold emails still work to everyone listening. And then we had a lot of other great speakers, right? Like Steve Silver, former VP and principal analyst at Forrester, who covers revenue operations. Gabe Rothman, who's a VP of operations at Rescale. We had CEOs, we had CROs, we had VPs, we had directors, we had folks across all these different disciplines putting on a lot of sessions, from how to deliver customer value to comp planning workshops, sales capacity planning workshops. There were breakout room sessions that were 30 minutes long, to workshops that were 90 minutes long, to main stage sessions that were 30 minutes long. So lots of really great content on the there. And we had, like I said, those 4 tracks, which made it work really well. But then obviously we knew, it's in our name, RevOpsAF, and I'll say our overall vibe is to try to be, non-businessy, not corporate-y, right? So we wanted to make sure that this was also going to be a celebration and that it was going to be fun and it was going to be a true experience. And so we wanted to pepper in some, call it, offsite experiences, things that would allow people to enjoy the city and the space that we were in outside of the sessions. And so the first conference was held in San Diego, so we did things like a tacos and tequila tasting with a ghost tour. So some attendees got to join that. We did a walking tour of Coronado Island and a ferry ride. So we even did a brewery tour as well. So just wanted to give people a way to get out, mix and mingle outside of sessions. And then lastly, you mentioned like some of the parties and the fun, right? The nightcaps, if you will. Those were a blast. The one that we did was basically a karaoke night. Never thought I'd see some of the people that I did on a karaoke stage. Some folks in RevOps have some moves, y'all, and we do have photo and video proof of this if we ever need it. So karaoke night was a big hit. And then we closed things off with basically a kind of a closing reception and after party, which was also a lot of fun. There was a taco truck. We had some awesome drinks. There was an outside area. And we kind of closed things out, past midnight on the last night of the event. So yeah, it was really just a well-rounded experience where you could show up during the day. You could learn a lot. There was a Ron Burgundy impersonator as well in the expo hall, which was awesome. So you could learn a lot. You could have a lot of fun. And then you could, enjoy things like karaoke and just meeting some of your fellow people who maybe you've only known online, right, before, and now you got to meet them in real life and in person.
Let's not forget the animatronic dinosaurs.
Yep, there were animatronic dinosaurs as well. So yeah, that's how we throw a conference, right? Ron Burgundy impersonator, animatronic dinosaurs, and karaoke. That's the mix of stuff. Throw in revenue operations in the middle of all those things, and that's what you get with RevOpsAF.
Yeah, it's fun AF. I can speak from experience. So that was fantastic. I think personally, the thing I enjoyed the most, even though I was super busy and not running around, but rolling around because I was in a wheelchair at the time. But what I enjoyed the most was just like you said, the ability to meet all of the people that I've been interacting with a ton online and over Slack in real life. And it was just food for the soul.
Yeah, agreed. Like even I remember, well, like I said, so Gabe Rothman, VP of Ops at Rescale, him and I met originally on LinkedIn. He provided some early like customer discovery interviews for the Funnel IQ product that we were building. That was how he got involved in the community early on. Then it turns out actually, one of the guys that I go to my local CrossFit gym with told me like 6 months ago that he was interviewing at this company called Rescale. And I was like, oh, I know the operations guy there. So I connected them. They chatted. He ended up getting this job on the sales side. And so now there's all this weird random connection of like that I had with Gabe, and I was finally able to meet him in real life. And like we took a picture. I sent it to my gym buddy. And I was like, hey, just proof that like Gabe is actually here this week speaking at our conference. So yeah, it was stuff like that, right? Where you have all these digital connections, especially with things starting and happening so much during COVID, that it was just great to kind of get everybody in the same room and have some fun in real life.
So I think all of us are curious, what's your vision for the RevOpsAF piece of all of this? I mean, obviously we're doing a podcast right now, but beyond that, and how does it all tie together with your vision for the community?
Yeah, well, I think the thing, while I'll say our the way we're accomplishing our goal with, we call it this business, has changed. I think our mission is still the same, which is when we started the business, way back 4 years ago, we wanted to just provide value to people in revenue operations. And our first idea was to build a software product in the space to do that. That is obviously not the case anymore, but the community is allowing us to accomplish that. And what we're seeing, at least with RevOps, is this role and this function has, taken off, and it has, continued to grow. And I think it will continue to grow. And now that we're past COVID, we have the opportunity to not only provide all of these digital ways for people to connect, interact, and succeed in their role within revenue operations, but we now have all of these in-person ways that we can do that as well. And so for us, our community, while primarily, still based in North America and the United States, we do have tons of people all across the globe. I think we've got 45 plus countries represented across our member base. And a lot of those folks are based outside of the US. And so in terms of what we have planned going forward, still want to do this annual conference in the United States. We'll rotate cities and stuff so that we can, kind of hit each coast and everywhere in between. But we also want to expand that into a Europe based version of our conference that'll occur every single year as well, so we can be easily accessible to folks who are based over there. And we also want to just provide more, I'll call it like in-person event series wrapped around this as well. So one of the things we're doing are these executive think tank events where we're getting RevOps leaders in various cities together across the country in a lead up to RevOpsAF in the US next year. We'll be kind of talking about the future of revenue operations, the RevOps path to the C-suite, and just delivering a lot of value to folks who work in RevOps leadership, and then sharing learnings and things from those sessions with the broader community as well. And so with RevOpsAF, really want to just hold as many of these kind of multi-day or even single-day, kind of conferences in as many different locations all across the globe as we can, because RevOps is one of those things that is truly expanding globally and still growing a lot, and we don't see that as ever ending anytime soon.
Well, Matt, I don't often thank people for ignoring my advice, but this is one of those times. I'm really glad that you pushed forward and we figured it out, and was a great starting point for what's to come.
Yep. Go big or go home, right?
Yep. So normally we give our guests an opportunity to tell us where to find them. Obviously, you can find both of us, but especially Matt, in the community.
Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode, everybody.
For more great content like this, join our community at RevOpsCoop.com and check out the links provided in the show notes.
Keep it RevOps safe, y'all.